It's Over Opinionated. With Josh Cott.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Over Opinionated. As we are starting to do, as we did last week, I'm going to start off by reading the Apostles' Creed and then the Lord's Prayer before we get in today's episode. The Apostles' Creed: I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his Son, our Lord, which was conceived of the Holy Ghost, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, buried. He descended into hell. The third day he arose again from the dead. He ascended into heaven and sitteth on the right hand of God the Father Almighty. From hence he shall come to judge the quick and the dead. I believe in the Holy Ghost, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of the saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and the life everlasting. Amen. The Holy Catholic Church just means the universal church, everyone that's a believer. Hell is sometimes interpreted as Sheol, meaning dead. I'm going to read the Lord's Prayer now, and then we'll get on with our episode. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. Lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. All right, everyone. Welcome back. Sorry it's been a while since our last episode. I'm probably just going to have a combined episode. Because the biggest subject matter that I'm going to be talking about is America's health, and today, and I wanted to talk about the sin of gluttony and being overweight for a couple times now, for a few reasons. This is brought up to me on numerous occasions when advocating for the gospel online. People will attack my weight, and I am overweight. I'm obese. I'm a big boy. And I have no problem admitting that I need to lose some weight. It's something I've always struggled with since I've been conscious from a very little kid. Been overweight, and I fully acknowledge I'm way too big. I gotta lose some weight. But they use that as a cope to justify their sins. And I'm sorry, being overweight is not the same thing as being an act of rebellion against God. If it's sexual sin or if it's whatnot, they are different, because I'm not an act of rebellion against God. I'm repentant. I'm trying my best to do better daily. There's a lie that all sins are the same. All sins are not the same in the sense that they have the same consequence here on earth or in heaven. I don't think that God, there are a lot of evangelicals kind of make God a communist when they say all sins are the same. I just do not believe that is true. There's a passage in James that I believe people mispronounce. It says, if you kill man, or if you lie, or something along those lines, I'm paraphrasing, then it's, if you break one law, you break all of the laws. All he is saying is, heck, I'll go to James right now and read the verse. So we're going to read out a New International Version. This is James chapter 2, verse 10. For whoever keeps the whole law, yet stumbles at one point, is guilty of breaking it all. For he who says you shall not commit adultery also says you shall not murder. If you do not commit adultery, but you do commit murder, you have become a lawbreaker. All he is saying there is that if you break any law, you're guilty of sin. Jesus had to come down and die for you, so you are guilty of all of it. That doesn't mean that all sin is the same. I do see how people can misconstrue that. I don't think that's what James means at all. Because I'm going to read you a verse here in a second that would seem that counters that. So, the first John, the Epistle of John, 1 John 5, verses 16 through 17. If you see a brother or sister commit a sin that does not lead to death, you should pray that God will forgive them. I refer to those whose sin does lead to death. There is a sin that leads to death. I am not saying that you should pray about that. All wrongdoing is sin, and there is a sin that leads to death. So there is a difference in sins. So the sin of gluttony is not necessarily the same as the sin of rebellion, which is really what's the hardest thing that people that attack me for this is, or people in sexual sin and just absolute rebellion. So I'm going to read you guys an article from AP about this before we get into the speech from the governor of West Virginia tackling on obesity with Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, and we'll talk about the spiritual ramifications of it as well. I do have to talk about this texting scandal that has occurred with the Trump administration, with the strikes on the Houthis, the Houthi terrorists. So I'm going to read you a small article by AP from March 25th, 2025. As I'm recording this, it's March 30th, so 2025. Washington, AP. Top national security officers for President Trump, including his defense secretary, text plans for upcoming military strikes in Yemen to group chat in a secure messaging app that included the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. The magazine reported in a story posted online Monday. The National Security Council said in a text chain, appears to be authentic. Trump initially told reporters he was not aware that the highly sensitive information had been shared 2.5 hours after it was reported. He later appeared to joke about the breach. The material in the text chain contained operating details of forthcoming strikes on Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen, including information about text weapons in the U.S. would be deployed and attacking. Subsequently, Editor-in-Chief Jeffrey Goldman reported, it was not immediately clear if the suspects of the military operation were classified, but they often are, and at least they are kept in a secure and protected service member and operation security. The U.S. has conducted airstrikes against the Houthis since the military group began targeting commercial and military vessels in the Red Sea in November of 2023. Just 2 hours after Goldblum received the details of the attack on March 15th, the U.S. began launching a series of attacks against the Houthis in Yemen. So, there's this texting app that I've just learned about called Signal. It's supposed to be very secure, that had several people in it. Had the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. There's a lot of people in the administration in this texting app that are talking about national security. They're not supposed to do this. Now, they're using the app that they think is secure, and most of the time it is. but someone accidentally added the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic newspaper, Jeffrey Goldblum. And he's getting all this information. Before it happens, he claims that he thought it was a joke, that's why he stayed on the chat. Really, he probably should have left the chat and notified the White House. There had been some, I apologize, I have a very squeaky chair, but I'll eventually get one that's not as squeaky. But the White House definitely fussed on these guys. There's someone that took the blame, took the fall for it. And it was a total breach in security, and it shouldn't have happened. I don't care if I supported Trump or voted for him, this should not have happened. It wasn't Trump's fault, it was his administration's fault. Some heads were definitely wrong about this. I do have to say, my senator, Mark Warner, was giving them a pretty hard time over this in Senate, and I understand why. But I wonder if Mark Warner and all the Democrats did they give the same harsh treatment to Hillary Clinton with her classified emails? No, they didn't. So it just seems what team you're on, what political side you're on, if you're going to go after the person full force. Thankfully, that didn't stop the strikes from happening. It didn't hurt any. It didn't hurt any of our plans to strike the Houthis. It didn't hurt any of our military men or women. It was just something could have bad happened if they accidentally added the wrong person to the group chat. You can go read the group chats. I'm not going to do that here because that's not my focus, but I wanted to address it. I want to talk about something that went on in West Virginia. I really think the governor of West Virginia has stuck up, has showed a lot of leadership here lately. His state legislature just passed a bill to ban certain food dyes that are unhealthy for consumption, but the soda industry definitely fought him about that because they don't want to make two different products. They don't want to have to make a product for West Virginia, and they don't want to make a product for the rest of the United States. I'm actually going to play you some of the speech from Robert F. Kennedy and from the newly elected governor of West Virginia. He's a big guy, by the way, so I'm giving him all the props. He's doing something that's taken a little bit of courage, because anybody that would want to be hateful to him when he's running for re-election, or any Democrat, could be, well, you promised to lose the weight and you didn't, on a personal matter. So that could be, and this is something that hits home. I'm a big guy, so it hits home with me. And I'm not from West Virginia. Most of the listeners in this show aren't. I've had a few listeners from West Virginia, but I just think this is so important. West Virginia is really leading the way. It wasn't a liberal state like California or New York or Colorado or Maryland. It was the Republican state of West Virginia. Now, West Virginia hasn't been a Republican conservative state very long. It's actually pretty recent in history. And a lot of people blame the Republican Party for how bad West Virginia is off economically and health-wise. And, well, I'm sorry, you just can't blame the Republican Party for West Virginia's years and years and years of control being under the Democrats and under the coal lobbyists and the coal unions, and them not diversifying their economy, and them being, their state is 100% in Appalachia. Not one part of their state is not in Appalachia. They're the only state in the union like that. So there's just a lot of problems because of geographically. It's a beautiful state. It's absolutely a beautiful state. Western Virginia, our part of Virginia, and West Virginia, I think, has some of the most beautiful places in the country, and East Tennessee as well. But Western North Carolina, and some of Eastern Tennessee, Kentucky too. But some is, but this area, Middle Appalachia, is known for poverty, is known for obesity, diabetes. It's something we struggle with here. And so I'm going to play a little bit of his speech. West Virginia is the first state to ban some certain type of dyes that you put in soda and food. So I'm going to play you a little bit of his speech, pause it momentarily from commentary, and then I'm going to give you some Bible verses about gluttony and how to try to defeat that. And that's something I'm working on right now. It's really, really hard. I might be a big person till the day I die. But the main point is trying to do better. Trying to do better for ourselves, our loved ones, our country, and God, in our health. And there's forgiveness for messing up and not having the perfect body. There's forgiveness and grace, and this is so not the same thing as a sin of rebellion against God, a hatred toward God. So don't let anyone try to say, well, you can't talk bad about homosexuality, you're overweight. You could say, yes, I'm overweight, that's a sin.
Let's take a quick break.
Has anybody ever told you you were over opinionated? How about this one? You can talk about everything you like, but don't talk about religion, don't talk about faith, don't talk about politics. My name is Jerome McClain, host of Jerome McClain Show, and I want to introduce you to a show called Over Opinionated with my friend from Southwest Virginia, Josh Scott. Josh has always been told he has been over opinionated. He always tried to hold back these opinions, but he tried to back them up when he had to say something with facts and logic. Since he's grown up in many ways, he had to change a lot of his views and his opinions, as a lot of people should. He's not a millionaire from Fox News or CNN. He's just a hard-working, blue-collar type of guy. Give Josh Scott a shot at Over Opinionated with Josh Scott. You can find him on patreon.com/overopinionated at 679. You can also check him out on Twitter at NRV_guy79. Over Opinionated with Josh Scott, where he is this soft-spoken guy telling you the truth.
What you're doing is worse. You're in rebellion to God. You're not only... It would be different if you were just tempted by your sin. I have no problem with a homosexual, with someone who's tempted with homosexuality. That's never been my problem, ever. I do have a problem with someone that makes it their identity and the hatred toward God. Alright, in just a moment, I will play you part of the clip. Alright, everyone, I'm going to start playing the speech. I do apologize for the sound quality. I am going to try to work on getting it where I can have a better sound quality instead of playing it the way I'm doing it. And I plan on buying something someone suggested on that will help me with that endeavor. Until then, thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to play a good portion of the speech from the governor of West Virginia and the Secretary of Human and Health Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The governor's name is Patrick Morsi. We're going to start you off about the 3 minute mark, 3 minute 20-second mark. And here we go.
I'm going to speak the truth, even when it's inconvenient. Now, we're here today to talk about some very serious issues impacting West Virginia and our country. And there's no way around it. West Virginia ranks at the bottom of many public health metrics. We lead most of the country in obesity stats, heart disease, diabetes. Our children are diagnosed with ADHD at rates well above the national average. And we have one of the lowest life expectancy rates in the United States. That's the bad news. But we have good news. We have the power to change it. Yes, we do. And I plan to lead by example. I plan to travel this journey with you, and I'm going to do my best, my personal best, to make the hard choices to get healthier. You see, I want all West Virginians to have happy, long, healthy, and purposeful lives, spending time with friends and family and all the things that really matter. And I'm not afraid to admit that I've not always made the best food and exercise decisions in my life, but I will do my best to get better. That's why today I'm proud to launch what I'm calling the 4 pillars of a healthy West Virginia. First, we have to clean up the food. We really do. Let's start with no more dyes and dangerous additives in the schools. We know that studies show that can lead to issues with hormones and hyperactivity and learning challenges for our kids and even cancer. Our kids deserve better, and now they're going to get it. You deserve that. That's why earlier this week, we took the first step to remove those harmful dyes from school nutritional programs and food items throughout the state. I'm thankful to the legislature for their leadership in passing this bill and making West Virginia a leader, the first state in the nation to make sweeping changes to clean up our food. I'm hopeful that this new law is going to lead to a broader national discussion and FDA action so we can have more consistent policies across the nation. I'll start with our second pillar: find purpose, find health. Throughout all of our 55 counties, I want all West Virginians to find a purpose that helps them spring out of bed in the morning and helps them lead healthy and purposeful lives. As the state with the lowest workforce participation rate in the country, one of my priorities has been getting West Virginians back to work. Yep. So, today, I'm announcing my intent to expand work, training, and educational requirements for SNAP recipients.
That's good. And I'm sure he's... I think Vice President Mike Pence, when he was the governor of Indiana, did the same thing. If you were a man between I think it was between the ages of... I can't remember. It was like, if you're a man between the ages of 18 and 60 or something, if you didn't have a job, this was only if you didn't have a job, that you had to do volunteer hours, like 20 volunteer hours a week, to earn your SNAP benefits. Some people might think that's horrible. How would you ever do that? And it's only a people that's not on disability. It's only 20 hours a week. It's to get them into the workforce so they're just not mooching off the federal government. I think that's a wonderful idea. And it was only the men. It wasn't the women. So I'm sorry. I 100% support food stamps for people who've needed. I have had family that has needed it, and I have no problem with people on disability or people who do work and don't make enough money to use SNAP benefits. I think that if we're going to call for more Christian government, we have to have programs like that to help poorer people out. 100%. I have no problem with that. But if you are not disabled and you can work, you should work to get your SNAP benefits. You just should. I don't want anyone to starve, but lazy people, you should not be lazy and hurt the government. That doesn't mean I want to take anyone's benefits away. Like I said, if you're disabled, that's fine. You can still get them. You can get that in a disability check. If you're not disabled, I don't see there being a problem in you working someplace 20 hours a week for SNAP benefits. I think that's very reasonable. And maybe that encourages you to just go and get a job yourself. And maybe you make enough money where you don't need SNAP benefits. Or maybe you're making money where you still need them. Either way, that's fine. But it helps our government. It helps our country. And it's not about just helping our government. It's about helping our country. This national debt doesn't just hurt the government. It hurts the country. It hurts me. It hurts you. Our economy. I'm not saying we'll ever get out of the debt, but little stuff like that and what Doge is doing goes a long way. I'd also suggest giving money to countries that hate us as well. But this isn't about the budget. This is about getting America healthy again. And part of that would also be getting people to work again. West Virginia does have a problem, though, when it comes to work. They don't have... Their jobs aren't that great down there. I'll be honest with you. You have the coal mines. You have, I guess your school system and stuff. They have West Virginia has some of the most beautiful state parks you've ever been in. Virginia does too, by the way. But it's. I'll be honest. It's hard, especially when you grow up in some of these coal counties where drugs are rampant. But he's doing the right thing. He's trying his best to get his state healthy and working. And I applaud Governor. Governor Patrick on that.
I think we can all agree work is good, work is moral, and it helps us to be stronger in the mind and the body. And we need more of that right here in West Virginia. Outside of limited exceptions, if you have the ability to work, you should. Pillar 3, move your body, change your life. I think all of us know the benefits of exercise, not only for our physical health, but for our mental and spiritual well-being as well. Now look, I stand before you today. I'm not pretending to be a fitness guru. Certainly not the way it may have been 30, 40 years ago. But I have asked Secretary Kennedy to be my personal trainer. And he hasn't said yes yet, but I think he's sizing me up as a major renovation project. Unfortunately, most of us don't get the exercise we need, myself included. But in order for us to get healthy and start to move the needle in terms of where we rank in many of the public health metrics, we all, as a state, must start exercising more now. That's why today, part of our third pillar, I'm announcing a statewide exercise movement. We're going to call it the Mountaineer Mile. I'm challenging every West Virginian to get out and walk at least 1 mile per day. As governor, I understand that I need to do this as well and start shedding the pounds. So in the future, you might start seeing me walking around the Capitol complex a little bit longer. You might see me in many of our amazing state parks. Plug for our state parks, best in the country, right? And you also might see me doing more walking closer to home in the Eastern Panhandle.
So I put a pause right there. I think that's a lot of leadership. He says, not only am I asking you to do this, I'm going to attempt to do that. And, that's putting him out there. If he doesn't lose much weight, Democrats will say, well, listen, you didn't lose much weight. And that'd be a jerky thing for them to do. But at least he's making an attempt. That's all I'm saying. We should try to make an attempt. I'm included in this. He's calling his version the Mountaineer Mile. I'm gonna say, why don't we extend that? Let's call it the America Mile, and we try to do 1 mile a day on our feet, either on a bike or walking. Now, a lot of people walk a mile at work. If you do that, then you're fine. If not, then and that's what I'm going to do. I've walked a mile every day this week except one, and that is today. And I'm going to try to get a mile in on my bike pedals after that episode. So that's a goal I think we should try to have, is just getting up, moving, trying to eat better. And I think he's shown a tremendous amount of leadership.
Our fourth pillar, we want to reward healthy food choices. We need to change the SNAP system so that West Virginians are incentivized to make healthy choices, like choosing fresh produce, lean meats, and natural foods over a lot of the ultra-processed crap that barely qualifies as food, right? So, beginning today, we're asking for help to realign SNAP so that good food choices are easier to make. If taxpayers are paying for it, let's make sure it fuels health, not disease.
Yeah, I want to pause that right there. That's very important, and I've actually had that idea in my head for a while, and what the governor's doing, I can't prove it, but I did say to myself, it would be good if a president got out and did this. Now, a governor's doing it, but I've said for a long time, and I know I'm a big guy, so you could say I'm a hypocrite or whatever, that our food is not as great as it should be. It really hurts our youth, and when you grow up that way, it leads up, like me, it leads up to where you are now, and you countries. I know that some people on the right will say, well, we don't want to regulate the food industry too much because regulation could kill jobs. Well, the food is killing us, and I care. You have to have people to work jobs. The food is killing us. Diabetes and high blood pressure, obesity, it's hurting us. I understand I'm in the latter category. But still, we got to go out. We got to fight. We got to try. I'm going to try. I'm asking you to try. And, let's say you're 500 pounds. I'm not picking on anyone that's that much weight or anything else. I'm a big guy too. I think that's between me and God. But let's say you're 500 pounds and you lose 50 pounds. You're still a big guy. You're still too big. Well, you're still overweight. You're not too big. You're not too big to live your life and try to enjoy it. You still need to lose weight. But 50 pounds is a big deal, man. Or even 5 pounds. You gotta start out small. Every pound lost is a gain for the United States of America. It is better for our country with every pound we lose. This is a real problem. It's a real problem for our country, and it's a real problem for us spiritually. It doesn't mean you can't be a big Christian that's saved. I'm a big Christian. I'm saved. I know when I die I'm going to heaven. But I want to live as many years as I can on this planet. Spreading the gospel, spreading the love, fighting for conservatism, and living the family life. That's my American dream. My family, spreading the gospel, and then on the third point, spreading conservatism, but it's on the smallest scale on the ladder. The family and the gospel are at the top. The family's at the top, gospel second, then the ladder. Well, really, Jesus is at the top. But now I'm rambling, so forgive me for rambling. But yeah, this is a good thing. And I've had people say, well, we don't need it's not our business to regulate what people buy and eat. I understand. Listen, if you want to go get a Coca-Cola, I'm not going to say you can't go get a Coca-Cola, but I want the things in that Coca-Cola to not kill you. And I understand there's always going to be sugar and caffeine. I understand that soda is not great for you, but we shouldn't be pumping it full of all kinds of other crap. You should know when you have a Coca-Cola what is in it. It shouldn't be all this artificial, all this crap with the dyes and this and that. That we just need what they have to drink. And when it comes to Snap, I'm sorry, I know some people say, well, that's what some people have for their groceries, and their kids won't be able to have a treat every once in a while. Listen, we're the biggest country in the world. Even our poor people are fat. It's a problem. And that's not me saying that, we're not really poor. There are really poor people in America. But most of our poor people in America are overweight. And I don't want my tax dollars going to sugar water for kids to make them diabetics when they're adults. I don't want to set them up for that. Now, if you want to make it where you can have a diet soda where we take out all the artificial crap, I understand that diet soda has some artificial sweeteners. If you want to limit it where you can have one diet soda for every $100 of things you buy on Snap, then fine. Okay? I'm all right with a little bit of that, but we just can't keep wasting our money. And it's about nutrition. They should be getting good stuff for their body, and it's coming from our taxpayer dollars, guys. Okay, I'm not saying you can't. I'll be honest. I don't think little kids should be drinking a lot of soda. If you want to give your kid a Coca-Cola every once in a while, it's his birthday, or once a week or so, it's fine. But should kids really be drinking 4 and 5 cans of regular soda a day? Maybe our parents let us, and they didn't. I don't think. Let's give them a little bit of credit. I don't think they understood this stuff. I'm not saying be mean to them, but we don't have to keep doing that. If they want a soda, give them a zero sugar soda or a diet soda. I understand there's still bad stuff in it, but it's not everything. It's not a 4 or 5 times a day thing. But I'm going to keep playing the governor's speech.
But, and I'm being serious about this is not about judging someone's grocery cart. It really isn't. I don't want to do that. I don't think anyone here does. But it is about asking a fair question. Is the SNAP program doing what it was supposed to do? You see, SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That N is for nutrition. It's not for nonsense. If the law says the program is meant to help people get a more nutritious diet, then that should be the standard. Why should hard-earned federal and state tax dollars be allowed to ignore nutrition? Taxpayer dollars should be targeted toward nutritious foods. That is why today I'm also intending to request a SNAP waiver from the federal government to no longer have taxpayer-subsidized soda as an entitlement under SNAP. We're also going to be incentivizing healthy bundles and other food choices that can help people access and eat better foods, healthier foods. That healthy bundle and other programs, that's going to expand access to healthy food choices in this area and all 55 counties in the state. Quite frankly, I think we can do it, and we can also even save money, federal money at the same time. I'm eager to work with you and the entire Trump administration on that. Making America healthy again and West Virginia healthy again, that's not just a slogan. That's going to be our mission. And here in the Mountain State, we are leading the charge. And that's because in West Virginia, we're not just climbing the mountains, we're moving them. Let the rest of the country take note. We're cleaning up our food. We're lifting up our families. Where tax dollars are involved, we're incentivizing consumption of healthier foods. We're respecting the dignity of work, and we're living up to our name. Wild and wonderful, and now, a healthier West Virginia. So, it's my honor to be here today. I thank you all for coming. God bless you. Now, I'm going to take a moment and get ready to turn this over to his fine gentleman next to me. And I want to recognize someone who, quite frankly, has become one of the most talked about, most vilified men in America. You should be proud, Mr. Secretary, because I am of you. Because when the bureaucracy gets nervous, it sees real change coming. Secretary Kennedy has been willing to speak hard truths, take on powerful interests, and stand up for everyday Americans, even when it wasn't popular, even when it wasn't easy. He's not afraid of a fight, and that's exactly the kind of leadership we need in Washington. So today, on the heels of a major public health win in West Virginia, we are proud to stand with them. Please join me in welcoming a warrior for children, a man who refuses to back down, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Governor Morrissey. I'm very, very happy to be here at St. Joseph's, and I'm really happy to be here in West Virginia. I just want to say a few words about West Virginia, because West Virginia is a state that holds a special place in the hearts of every Kennedy. In the 1960 campaign, I was living in McLean, Virginia. But my parents disappeared into West Virginia for about 6 weeks, and we didn't see them, as well as all of my aunts. My uncle, President Kennedy, who was then in the Senate, was running for president, and the consensus wisdom around the country was that a Roman Catholic, could not be elected president of the United States. Al Smith had run against President Roosevelt. He was a Catholic from New York, Catholic governor, very, very popular. And when people found out that he was Catholic, there was a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan. There were crosses burned all across the country. And he lost the election catastrophically. And people just felt, Americans felt, and the pundits all felt, that America would never elect a Catholic president. When my uncle decided to run for president, he knew that he had to win West Virginia. West Virginia had the lowest number of Catholics, less than 2% of the population was Catholic. And it was thought to be a place where there was a lot of anti-Catholic prejudice that had voted overwhelmingly against Al Smith. It was critical to my uncle's campaign that he win this state and show the country that a Catholic could win presidency. Well, he came down to West Virginia, and his objective was to shake the hands of every person in West Virginia. And I think he came very close. And my parents came down, my uncles, my aunts, luckily we had a lot of Kennedys, and they all came down, and they spent time really getting to know the people in West Virginia and understanding the issues in the state, the problems, and those things stayed with him throughout his presidency. And on election day, he won the state of West Virginia overwhelmingly. And
I want to make a comment about that. Yeah, there is a deep anti-Catholic bias that used to be very prevalent in the South and Appalachia, and there still is that to some degree. It's went down. This isn't just religious, though. It is somewhat religious, but it's not just religious. It has, some of it is just about your nominal identity of the church you grew up in. From all accounts that I know, I don't think President Kennedy was very deeply religious, but he was, his heritage, he was Irish and he grew up a Catholic. Now, I have some deep theological differences with Catholics, but I still consider them, many of them, not all of them, but many of them, my brothers and sisters in Christ, despite the deep theological differences. With that being said, for some people, Catholic is an identity more than it is a religion, and it's their upbringing. Now, for some people, it's both, but I do think we have came a long way from where we were when it comes to accepting people that are different. And sometimes I actually think we went too far with it when it comes to a lot of transgender stuff, because we don't want to accept sin. We'll love the people, but we don't want to accept sin. But when it comes to cultural stuff, yeah, we should not just dislike people because they come from a Catholic country. Obviously, there's been a big divide between Protestants and Catholics for the last 500 years. I think it's getting better, but there's always going to be somewhat of a divide because of our theology being different in some areas. We believe in the same God. We believe in the same Jesus. We believe that God is a Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, being different persons united in one perfect being. But we have some difference with our salvation theology, and I do think some Catholics are saved, but I am concerned about others when it comes to the Mariology. I really am. But I do consider many Catholics my brothers and sisters. But I do think that there's a picture of JFK shaking the hands of people in West Virginia, exactly what he's talking about. And even though West Virginia was one of the least Catholic states, it was also for years one of the most democratic states in the country, with the coal miners and the unions. But so I'm going to let Secretary Kennedy continue to talk.
during his presidency, he always believed that he would not be president if he had not won this state. And he never forgot that relationship and that bond that he had formed and that so many members of my family had formed with the people in this state, the affection and the warmth with which they were greeted and embraced. And it's something that now, 70 years later, everybody in our family has this very, very strong affection and bond to this state. And I've been lucky enough that I've been able to spend a lot of my career doing work in this state, in the mining country, and trying to end pollution and give people a chance to live healthier lives. I want to thank Governor Morrissey for his visionary leadership. I got to know Governor Morrissey early in the transition. We were both down in Palm Beach working on the transition in Mar-a-Lago, and we were both invited to stay during that time at Dr. Oz's house. And I got to know, I said to Dr. Morrissey, or Governor Morrissey, the first time I saw him, I said, "You look like you ate Governor Morrissey." And there was a lot of talk about that.
Actually, I know that Kennedy he's in his 70s. Older people are just okay with making fun publicly and openly with big people. And, as someone who's been very bullied for his weight, I don't like it. I understand some people will say, Steven Crowder. I'm not a fan of Steven Crowder because a lot of the things he's done, being emotionally abusive to his wife and coworkers, and I think he's betrayed the conservative movement in ways by railroading Ben Shapiro when he offered him a spot at the Daily Wire. But I used to watch Steven Crowder religiously because I do think he can be very funny. But he would always say, you got to make fun of fat people so they get up and they start trying to lose weight. Well, that only halfway works. Some people might do that. Some people are going to shut down and they're going to keep on having substance abuse problems and food problems. Some of them a lot of it's connected to mental health problems. They could shut down and hurt themselves. All comedy is subjective. I'm not condemning Kennedy for saying the fat joke. I'm not saying that the government should arrest you. I just don't think it's helpful, is all I'm trying to say. If, right now I'm at the point where if someone makes fun of me because of my weight, I just sticks and stones. I move on. I don't talk to them. It's whatever. I don't care. But older people are pretty harsh. Pretty harsh about making fun of someone's weight. But the main goal, we try to have thick skin. We do try to have thick skin. All I'm saying is I don't think it's very helpful. But I'm going to let Secretary Kennedy continue to speak.
Healthy again, and I'm very happy that he's invited me to be his personal trainer. And I am going to put him on a really rigorous regimen. And we're going to put him on a carnivore diet. We're going to make him raise your hand if you want Governor Morrissey to do a public weigh-in once a month. And then when he's lost 30 pounds, I'm going to come back to the state and do a celebration and a public weigh-in with him. You're welcome, Denise. You left me an open door, so anyway, we have a public health crisis in this country, and unfortunately, West Virginia is leading the way. There's the highest obesity rate of any state in our country. This year, you pulled ahead of Mississippi. It has the highest rate of chronic disease in the country. And so I'm very, very grateful to Governor Morrissey for his visionary leadership in getting West Virginia to lead the way in transitioning off of processed foods. When my uncle was president, 3% of Americans had chronic disease. We spent zero on chronic disease in this country. Zero. There was no medications for it. Today, we spend $1.3 trillion on chronic disease every year. It's about 90% of our healthcare budget. And for most of my life, the Republicans and Democrats have been fighting about a healthcare plan, about treatment, really a sick care plan, about how to treat all this illness. Should it be Obamacare, the Affordable Health Plan? Should it be public-private partnership? Should it be a single payer? These are what the big battles that you read about on Capitol Hill. The real battle is that we're getting sicker and sicker every year. And it's really just a debate about who's going to pay the treatment. Nobody has been focused on how do we get ourselves less sick. And it's like moving deck chairs around on the Titanic. No matter what you do, our country is going to go bankrupt. It's now, when I was a kid, diabetes rates in children were almost zero. Juvenile diabetes, a typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his lifetime over a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walk through his office door is pre-diabetic or diabetic. 38% of teens are now diabetic, 50% of adults. A few years ago, it's not a mystery about where this is coming from. 20 years ago, there was no diabetes in China. Today, 50% of the population is diabetic. Why is that? They built 20,000 fast food joints in China and started selling American processed food. And it is costing us, we are now paying more just for diabetes, mitochondrial dysfunction, than we are for our military. And, financially, it is bankrupting our country. We're now spending more to service our debt, and the biggest piece of that debt is coming from health care. We're now paying more to service it than we are for our military budget. Within about 10 years, if we continue on this trajectory, 50 cents out of every tax dollar that you pay to the federal government is going to go to servicing the debt. Within 15 years, 100%. It's not sustainable. It's existential. If you love our country, you got to take care of yourselves. President Trump said that he wants to make America healthy again, but he wants to make it strong again. We cannot have a strong country if we have sick citizens. President Trump says that he wants to restore the American dream. But a person who is healthy has 1,000 dreams. A person who is sick has only one. And
I think that's a good quote. A person that is healthy has 1,000 dreams, but a person who is sick only has one, to get better. So let's try to get better. Let's try to get healthy so we can have 1,000 dreams.
60% of our country now that has only one dream, which is to get better. And we need to give them a pathway to doing that. And the pathway is through food. Food is medicine. It treats us in different ways, and it treats our health. It treats our mental health. There was a recent study that showed that when they switched the diet in prisons, that violence went down to a whole food diet. That violence went down by about 70%. When they switched the diet in juvenile detention centers to whole food diet, violence went down 100%. There's a scientist at Harvard now who is curing schizophrenia with a carnivore diet. So the loneliness, the dispossession, the crisis that we have in mental health, in suicide, in ADD, ADHD, all of these are linked, and particularly to the dyes. It's very clear the dyes that Governor Morrissey is banning. All of them are linked in very, very strong studies to ADHD and to cancers. So we're seeing an explosion in cancers in this country. We're seeing an explosion in infertility. Teenagers today have 50% of the sperm count and 50% of the testosterone of 68-year-old men. Girls are now reaching puberty 6 years earlier than they're supposed to, between 10 and 13 years old. Other countries are not experiencing this. We've seen autism rates go from 1 in 10,000 when I was a kid, 1 in 10,000, 1 in every 36 kids today, 1 in 22 boys in California. And the obesity rates have gone up to, as I said, 50% in adults, or 70% overall obesity or overweight, from 3%. In Japan, it's still 3%, because they're not eating these foods. They have nutrition programs in the foods where they have a nutritionist in every school who's in charge of the menu, and they eat healthy foods, so they don't have these illnesses. And we, when I was a kid, we were the healthiest, most robust people in the world. And today we're the sickest. 60% of Americans, from 3% when my uncle was president, to 60% today have chronic disease. And it's not happening in other countries. During COVID, we had 16% of the COVID deaths in this country. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. So we literally did worse than any country in the world. And when you ask CDC why are Americans dying from COVID at higher rates than any place on earth when we have all the money, they said, well, it's not our fault. It's because Americans are so sick. That is their fault. And we're going to change that. But they said that according to...
He's right about that. It is their fault. It is the establishment's, big pharma's fault in a lot of ways. Not only that, big pharma, big food, it is their fault. Now I understand that we put it in our bodies, but like you take me, for example, my entire conscious life I've been overweight. My entire conscious life. Our government has not protected us. Well, people will say, well, your parents should have. Yes, they didn't know. They didn't know everything that we know now. That's like blaming smokers before we knew smoking caused cancer. Okay? And it just makes me mad. Europe is so far advanced on us on this. I love America. I'm red, white, and blue all over. I think we are the greatest country in the world. But we suck at this issue. We suck at this issue. And a lot of Republicans will say, well, we can't regulate. We don't want to over-regulate. They are killing us. They are killing our children. They're giving us diabetes. Oh, well, just don't eat it. Are you telling me a 5-year-old is given a Coca-Cola for every drink they have, or a Pepsi, or whatever, for every drink they have? You think that you really expect that 5-year-old to go get water? Give me a break. And yeah, I think mothers and fathers should do a better job. I understand. But a lot of them, it's been baked into their system. Our government has let us down. Big Pharma, who cares more about making money than healing people, yeah, they care about healing people to a certain degree to make them more money. It's a profit thing. Even if they're a non-profit, the guys at the top are making a lot of money. Non-profits means hardly crap. It means jack diddly crap, just about. The guys at the top are making a killing. Just like Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood's a non-profit, and they make a killing off of killing human beings, off of killing unborn babies. That doesn't matter. I don't care if you're a non-profit. We have to try to get better. He's right about this. It is their fault. It's their fault. I'm not talking about doctors that are just at the emergency room doing everything he can to save people's life. I'm not talking about that. It's the establishment's fault and the government for ignoring this problem, even if they, let's say that they're not even being sinister. This is a Republican problem. This is a Democrat problem. This is an American problem. This problem does not care about your political identity. There are fat Republicans and fat Democrats, and we have to lose weight. We have to try, and if we don't, I'm going to get into the spiritual side. But he's right about this. I just got so amped. He's right about this. It is our fault that we are sick. I understand we can do better and take responsibility for ourselves, but that doesn't mean it's not their fault.
According to CDC, the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So they had diabetes, they had obesity, and maybe asthma and one other thing. And it was the chronic disease really that was killing them. Healthy kids were not dying. Healthy Americans were not dying of COVID. It was a disease that attacked the sick. And that's true with all infectious diseases. If we can make ourselves, the biggest thing that we can do for pandemic preparedness is to make ourselves healthy again. We're now 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service because of chronic disease. So this is affecting our national security. It's destroying our economy. It is existential for this country. And we need to change it. And I am so happy that you have a visionary governor in this state and that West Virginia is now leading the way. And I want to commend Governor Morrissey not only for his vision, but for his courage, because it's very, very hard. And for these legislatures who are pushing this bill, all of them are getting calls every day from the big soda companies, the sugar soda and the fake food companies. We're not eating food, we're eating food-like substances. And I'll tell you what happened. I was involved in the tobacco litigation back in the late 1980s. And the tobacco companies were, at that time, the cash richest companies in the world. But they saw the writing on the wall. They saw that the consumer base was turning against them. People were stopping smoking, and that they were being prosecuted and sued successfully. So they settled those lawsuits, but they also started shifting their resources to diversify their companies. And they went out and they bought the food companies. So by 1994, the two biggest food companies in the world were R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris, tobacco companies. They took about 10,000 scientists who were all engaged in nefarious ways to make tobacco more addictive, and they put them to work making food addictive, inventing ingredients in the laboratory that would make it do things to food. For example, they found out that food that you fill up, your brain tells you your stomach is filled, in part by counting the number of times you chew. So they started adding softeners to our food so that you wouldn't chew so much. So you'd have a sense that you're unsatisfied, you're insatiable, you're never full, so that you keep pouring it down your mouth. And that's just one of the many things they did. They added sodium and sugar. Sugar is as addictive as crack, and it's almost as bad for you. It kills you just as surely, it just kills you a little slower. It feeds tumors, it destroys your body, it destroys your brain. And they added more and more sugar to make us addicted to their products. And these companies are now, just like the tobacco companies were, are flooding into the offices of your state leaders and legislatures and the governor. And they're telling him he's making a big mistake. They're telling him that they're going to stop writing checks, that they're going to run people against them, that they're going to destroy their political careers. And Governor Morrissey was telling me that he met with the soda companies this week. And they said to him, you need to be educated about this. And they said, food stamps is not a nutrition program. He came in with his Diet Coke, and he said, is there anything nutritious in here? And they were like, no, of course not. But food stamps is not a nutrition program. And he said it's called SNAP, Supplementary Nutrition Assistance Program. It's supposed to be nutrition. It's not supposed to be food-like substances that are actually poisoning us. And so, but it takes a lot of courage to stand up to these companies the same way that it did to stand up to big tobacco. But these men and women, your leaders, Governor Morrissey, is standing up for you. And we all need to stand up for ourselves and take care of ourselves. It's an act of patriotism. If you love this country, you need to start taking care of yourselves. And I want to also say this, that the food companies all came and met with me 2 weeks ago. And they're scared of me, but they're more scared of Governor Morrissey. Because what they said, and the reason they said, well, tell us what you want, we're going to do it. And they said, but stop these governors from passing these laws, because we don't want a patchwork where West Virginia and California are banning food dyes, and we have to make special products for those states. So they're terrified of this, of what you're doing. And the message that I want to give to the country today and to all the other governors is get in line behind Governor Morrissey and apply for a waiver to my agency, and we're going to give it to you. But that's the way we're going to win this. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the Maha moms who got me into this office, and President Trump, who has given me free rein to do anything I need to do to make America healthy again. And then I particularly want to thank Governor Morrissey and these legislators for their courage, for their vision, for their willingness to stand up to the most powerful industries in the world, to stand up for the people of West Virginia and set an example, a shining example for the rest of the country. Thank you all very much.
That is their speech. I'm going to come back here and give you a couple Bible verses to help you in this endeavor. All right, I found a quote from Charles Spurgeon. Charles Spurgeon is known as the Prince of Preachers. He was a Reformed Calvinist preacher in England, but I really like him. I quote him quite a bit. I read some of Charles Spurgeon things, even though we have a difference of him being a Reformed guy and me being Arminian, him being a Calvinist and me being Arminian. He's really great insight. But Charles Spurgeon, he wasn't as big as I am, but Charles was overweight, especially for his day. And he has this quote here. So I think he understood that this is a sin that he struggled with as well. But he said, I believe that gluttony is as much as a sin in the sight of God as drunkenness. So he's not shying away from his own sin. And that's what I want to do here. I don't want to shy away from my own sins. This is one of many of them that I got to do better at. And I want to say this. As far as being an American, yes, for the love of our country and the love of patriotism, it would help us if we lost weight. With that said, I do think there is grace to be given in trying to do better. And I want to read us a Bible verse, just a couple of them here, that can maybe give you a little bit of peace if you're struggling with this. And listen, I may, I'm going to fight as hard as I can, but this, maybe this ends up getting me in the end. But I know that I have a good God and a loving God that will forgive me of this sin, and I will go to heaven when I die. That I don't think this is going to keep you from heaven. I don't think struggling with a sin that you're trying to conquer is going to keep you from heaven. I believe rebellious sin can, but not even a temptation. Like even if you're tempted in a homosexual way, if you give your heart to God and you live for Him, even if you slip up and you watch some gay videos on the internet you shouldn't have, I don't think that's going to send you to hell because you have a love for Him. Some people would disagree with me, but that's for a different day. We'll just have to get in that then. But if you're living for Him, God will not put you to shame if you're trying. And our salvation isn't built on us trying. It's built on His cross. But Romans 5, Romans chapter 5, verses 8, but God demonstrated His love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So Christ died for us knowing we would struggle with our weight. We would struggle with porn addiction, with fornication, that we would gluttony. And gluttony is just not overeating. It's just over consuming of anything, I think. But God knew we would struggle with our sin. And this includes being overweight. That is the Bible verse of the day, by the way. By demonstrating His love for us in this, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Psalms 1:39-14. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I know that I am full well. So God made us fearfully and wonderfully made. Even if we're overweight, we are still fearfully and wonderfully made, and we got to try to get to a better weight. But for the love of our country, for the love of ourselves and our family, even if we lose just a little bit of weight can help. And I've struggled with this my whole life. I might forever, but I'm not going to give up. I'm trying to renew the spirit in it. I hope that I can stay true to it this time. And so say a prayer for me. So if I'm overweight this time next year, or I will be, but hopefully not to the same extent. Hopefully I don't balloon up even further, God forbid. But say a prayer for me, and I'll say a prayer for you. Dear Jesus, please help this country, help us lose weight, help us help us with our spiritual life, Lord Jesus. Thank you for all you have gave us. We love you and put our hope in you, the one true King. Amen. Thank you so much for listening to Over Opinionated. I am going to try to see if I can invest in some better sound qualities, so when you listen to this, it will sound a little bit better when it comes to other people's audio. My audio is fine, I think, but going to other people's audio. God bless you and have a great day.